All right. Hello, everybody. While we wait for my co-presenters to join us, I would love to start with this activity. If you would, one of the areas that this presentation is looking at West Valley City and Kearns. And so if you have a moment, I would love for you to write in chat as you look at this map. And I know it's kind of small, so you'll have to go from your memory. About places that you go with your family or your friends on the weekends in West Valley City or in Kearns, or where you like to eat or go for lunch in the area, or if you've attended an event in West Valley City or Kearns. If you would put those in the chat, I'd love to see kind of the places that you find special in these two areas. And we'll take just a couple moments to do that.
Hello, everyone. I apologize for being late. Me and Daisy were lost. Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Hello. Yep, we just started the activity.
And somehow I cannot hear anyone. Hold on. Can you hear me, Jen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I am so sorry.
No, you guys are good.
Have you guys started? I'm sorry, everyone.
We have, and there are some really great suggestions so far in the chat, like the theater in Taylorsville. That's a new one. The Olympic Oval. I'm impressed at so many people going to the Olympic Oval.
I've never been to the Olympic Oval.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, well, I've been to the pool. I've been to the rec center and I've been to the pool. I'm sorry, I'm trying to connect everyone. I think Daisy and I toured the whole South City in 15 minutes. I think Daisy's trying to log on. Did we already share the Google form, Jen?
Ooh, golf. Well, it's been about 5 minutes. Idalina, do you want to invite people to share?
So yes, everyone. Oh, Antojitos El Colocho. I've never, Chanel. I've never been there. So yes, we just wanted to know where everyone had been in the areas of West Valley and Kearns, where your favorite places are to eat, or any events you've attended. And I don't know if you know, but we're having an event at the West Valley Center tonight. It's a lowrider bike show indoors from 6 to 9, and we're gonna have fabulous treats. Everybody's welcome to come. But one of my favorite places in West Valley is Carlos Pupusas. I don't know if anyone's ever been there. It's amazing. It's fabulous. And has anyone been there? Does anyone like pupusas? Carlos Kitchen. And Chanel, you put something about, what did you put? You put something that, Antojitos El Colocho, I've never been there. Where's that at?
West Valley City, she said. So good. You're welcome to unmute yourselves too. This is a participation kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I didn't get to go the other day, but my family did. And they actually do that rolled ice cream there, which I thought was kind of cool. In addition to all the different Mexican snacks and treats, which we love because we don't find that down here in Bluffdale. So we have to travel. Yeah, but it's a 4219 West, 3500 South.
4219 West. I'm trying to, so that's like by that Antojitos you're talking about?
Yeah, the one that's Antojitos El Colocho, because there's like a lot of those Antojitos places there.
Yeah, I'm trying to, so I've lived in this area for like over 20 years. I'm trying to think of where it's at. And it's in between Bangerter and like Azteca, right?
I didn't go there myself, but on the map it says it's across from the Jordan Valley Medical Center and by
Okay.
Harlan's,
Yeah.
the Ken Garf West Valley Ford.
Mhm.
I
So
hope everyone's
the,
taking notes. I mean, these are important.
yeah, the Carlos Kitchen is not too far from there, where I get the pupusas. Is awesome.
Definitely
yeah.
gonna try it.
So I don't know if everybody knows who I am. My name is Idolina Quijada, and I'm the site coordinator at the West Valley Center. And I also chair the Undocumented Student Resource Committee. And I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but we help undocumented students here at the college. If anyone is interested to know more about that, you can email me. More than happy to provide you information on that. And Daisy is also a member of that committee.
And so we have time, I think, for one more person to share out. Is there one more person who wants to unmute themselves and tell us where they love?
I think I saw something in the chat. SK Smith Café Silvestres.
I've seen that place. I've never ever eaten there. It's like really like hidden.
Charlie Smith for marketing. That's SK. And I have been to Silvestres for, oh gosh, since the 80s. It's right down 2200 West from the college. I take my staff down there all the time, and we supported them all through the pandemic with takeout, and they were fabulous. They also have the fried ice cream.
All right, well, I have saved this chat. People can reach out to me. Apparently we have lots of good lunch recommendations coming your way. But there's a reason we're doing this. I don't know. Does anyone know if La Escalita, I don't know if I say that right, is still around? Chrissy has
Kenya?
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. We'll have to Google. But the reason to do this is in part because these are two of the first areas that this CWT is focusing on, West Valley City and Kearns Township. And one of the things we need to do is understand all the assets and the strengths and the things and the skills, the talents, the resources these communities offer. And the fact that we live and we work and we are invested in these communities. So this is kind of an informal asset mapping. It's kind of a great way to find out apparently where to go for some spectacular food, but also a nice way to ground ourselves in the communities that we live and work in, and that we hope to develop and strengthen our partnerships with. And so that's the introduction to us. Very good. Sorry, you guys are covered with all of these. I have all these windows open, so I can't see. I'm on a little laptop. But what I want to do first is, my name is Jennifer Seltzer-Stitt, and I do community relations here at the college. And I'm one of the co-leads of the CWT. And we're also joined by Daisy and Idolina, and Daisy will introduce herself in just a moment. But first I want to run through the agenda that we're going to do today. First, we do the activity, which is a really just a beautiful way, I think, to enter into a discussion. And then an introduction to the CWT, what our charge is, why we're doing it at all, and what our process is. And then talk a little bit with you about what you think, what you would hope to accomplish as part of the college, as a caring educator, as a member of the community, and share out on that. So the first thing that we're doing is to talk kind of about why the CWT, what's our charge? And it's very basic. It's got two parts. And one of the things I love about the CWT is it's evolved. It's an evolving CWT. It's something that's constantly changing. And sometimes these committees are very, very directed. You have to produce in the next 3 months 5 recommendations specific to this one small issue. Well, our charge is a little different. The first one, part of it is to establish a process that we can use to evaluate and organize our community relations and strengthen and innovate our outreach and education to ensure strong relationships and transformative educational experiences in the communities that we serve. So basically, as we enter into community, I'm going to jump around a little on the agenda, but one of the reasons this started is because we had a lot of people who were really excited and doing all the good work that we're supposed to be doing in West Valley City, in Kearns, in Rose Park, in West Point, and people were doing committees and they were doing initiatives and they were doing outreach, but we weren't necessarily doing it together. And we weren't necessarily saying, we know that we will promise that we are going to be there in 10 years and we're going to invest these resources. Sometimes we were just doing it. And while that organic process is good and okay, we can do better sometimes if we have an idea, a goal, an organization, a process in which we follow. And so that's part of the reason why the CWT evolved. We thought, oh my gosh, all these people are doing good things. Let's see if we can get everyone to talk to each other a little bit, right? And then there's the actual work of the kind of the output side of it, which is we will identify kind of what's going on in these areas. We will make specific recommendations about how we can strengthen our processes, our structures, and our resources to coordinate and sustain our relationships with the communities. Because if you do it kind of everybody doing their own thing, which is again, okay, but it's harder to make sure that we are sustaining and meeting our part of what a partnership really is. The way that we have decided to start, and I want to explain why we're starting with West Valley City and Kearns Township. The reason we're starting there is in part because the data. We know that we can do better in reaching out to our communities and making sure that they have access to post-secondary education. We also know that we need to identify who our communities are. Within West Valley City, there are many different communities, geographic, demographic, any way you want to cut it. And so we know that as part of our effort, we want to make sure we understand who lives in these areas. And so this is just an example of some of the data that we've started to pull to help understand who we're working with. There's other reasons for starting with West Valley and Kearns, though. We've got the West Valley Center that's located out there. That is an anchor. We have promised the community that we are there by putting the West Valley Center there. This is something that can help us as we think strategically. Another reason is because the University of Utah is building a hospital in that area, just a couple blocks from West Valley City. And just by a raise of hands out of curiosity, who's heard about this hospital? Anybody? That's a surprising lack of hands or a lack of desire to use the little emoji things. 2 hands, 3. All right, there you go. And where this hospital is, it's only a couple blocks away, but it's as big as the hospital that we're talking that exists up in on top of Foothill. It's huge. And as they build there, I think there's an amazing opportunity to leverage the work that we do through West Valley Center to build pathways for both employment within the hospital, but also strengthen capacity within community, and to work in hand with the U in some of the asset mapping, in some of the community outreach, and making sure that we are doing a good job of building strong relationships. And so that's an opportunity that was really important. And it is great news. If in the chat, it is great news for better access. I think it's very interesting. I think it will bring up a lot of interesting discussions about gentrification as well. So I'm going to pass over to Daisy to introduce herself and talk a little bit about how we're going about this.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daisy Hernandez, and I work in the School of Business under the Business Management Department. I'm a faculty there. And so we have 12 guiding principles, right? We feel like it's important to kind of have like norms or, rules that kind of like direct our path as we're doing this work. I'm not going to talk about the 12 principles specifically, but we were able to break the 12 principles into like 3 major themes. And the first one is sustainability. Like, we understand that we as the community college have many resources to offer, have a lot of knowledge to also offer to our community partners. And we want our community partners to also offer, their knowledge. And we want the community partners, to see us as allies. We want them to see us as assets. and vice versa. We believe that our community partners have very important information that would help us be, of better service to our students or potential students, and we respect and value their input. Another theme is the social responsibility. So being a public institution, we have the ability to interact with important stakeholders of the state in general, right? And so we feel that our college mission commits us to act responsibly with our community members and be able to share in those resources. In order for us to be a partnership, though, we understand that we need to be trusted, we need to be accessible, and we need to provide the reciprocity needed. And the last thing would be like academic collaboration. So we know that we have some knowledge, right? But we're humble and we understand that there's a lot of things that we need to learn, and that maybe because we're not involved in the community in other endeavors other than education, we understand that we may have some blind areas, right, that our community partners can educate us on as well. And so we want to make sure that we are a helping hand to the community and societal issues specifically tied to education. And we also put ourselves in a position of being a learner where we want to seek data, we want to do research, we want to have the information needed. Okay, next slide, please, if you will. Thank you. And then, so it's like, what's the process? What is the approach that we're looking to take? Well, as Jen mentioned, we have identified groups, right? And as you will see, here are some of the zip codes that we have named under Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, and Group 4. If you can see, Taylorsville has multiple zip codes, and the fact that we do have, our main campus there, that also makes that important, right? And so it's like, what is the approach? At the moment, of course, this is not set in stone because we are putting ourselves in a position that we are learners. And so, but this also gives us some direction as to, what is it that we would like to do at the moment? Well, based on this groups, the number one thing is that we want to make sure that we understand the story. And this is where you're going to come in, right? With the qualitative information and a survey that Jen will share with us in a bit. We want to make sure that we're able to identify SLCC goals and that we're able to be able to communicate these with our partners and make sure that these are goals that our partners agree with, and they see that we're also giving back to them as they're going to give to us. And we're going to adopt the goals that we all agree on, right? And they're going to be driven by the community, of course, the college's mission and, strategic plan and aspirations. And again, we're going to have those qualitative, quantitative metrics in place to continue giving us information. We're going to implement those goals with the flexibility of revisiting and making some adjustments as needed. And then we will begin with the other groups. Of course, when we start with the other groups and we start the process over, we do understand that we will have some more experience. And the more we do this work, the better experience and the more information we'll be able to have to continue doing the work. All right. Thank you, Jen. Back to you.
Sorry, I have a habit of playing with things on Zoom. I apologize for that.
No
for
worries.
the slide moving around. So really briefly, I want to talk about again, how we want to do this. We believe that any comprehensive and enduring change, any real change that's going to be successful starts with a conversation. And a conversation doesn't, and this, the way the CWT is we hope designed, is that means it's not just the same people that you see in every committee that ever existed, right? But it means that everybody is invited to this conversation. It means that community members are invited to this conversation. It means that people who have felt or who have been excluded because of race, ethnicity, gender, class. Look, see, I'm just moving around on myself there. But everybody is invited to this table because it's not going to be successful if we are not all part of this conversation. It is not going to be successful if one of us thinks we know the answer. We are all learners. Everybody has something to offer, and we all have something to learn. And I want to talk and stop for a second And I want to explain how we've already seen that playing out. So at about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, we sent out a survey to about 500 people. And I'm going to talk about the survey in a moment, asking for their thoughts about how we're doing on community relations and engagement and outreach and access, and what they would like to see happen. And this was sent out internally to 500 faculty and staff. And we asked them what they would like to see in West Side communities. And we heard the answer loud and clear, which is West Side communities. First of all, you've included communities that are not traditionally West Side communities. It's a politicized term. You are creating a power dynamic and playing into the same systemic racism and challenges that have always existed. If you want to be different, do differently. And we heard that, and that's what we're going to do. We want to be different, so we're doing differently. And that kind of feedback about how to do this correctly, to know that nobody is approaching this from a set form, that we are learning and that we are changing, that we are both data-driven, but we also value and lift the histories of the communities that we're working with up, and that everybody's voice shapes how we go about this work matters. Okay, Erin, I'm going to come back. Erin has a comment really quickly. Wait, let's go ahead and address it now. It is, yes, exactly. So we're trying to learn. I'm glad you're here, Erin. And finally, again, that the process is iterative. So as we learn again, we do differently. There's going to be 2 parts of this process. There's internal discussions that happen right now, and we're going to do another 2 sessions, one at West Valley Center in person and one online, to encourage and develop these conversations and feedback, and then do also external outreach with our community members. And then finally, as Daisy mentioned, who drives recommendations? It's going to be community goals and feedback, right? We are the community college, so we can't do it without community voice, or we shouldn't do it without community voice. You drive the recommendations, because while we like to say institutional goals, institutional mission, we have to actually do the work, right? So we actually have to believe in the goals. We have to believe in the outcome. And then there are the college goals that are immutable, right? We have to, enrollment will be one of them, and access. But how we do that is shaped by our recommendations. And finally, college and community resources. What do we all bring to the table? So let me talk briefly about that survey. So we did send out this survey, and this is the feedback we initially got. The themes that we heard is that we can do a better job telling the story of what we're doing in our communities, that we can engage with K through 12 earlier and help build those academic skills, that we can better communicate the full range of possibilities that we have to offer. And by that, I think that means that sometimes we do a really great job in some schools or in some communities of sharing one type of programming and then sharing a different type of programming with other communities, instead of saying, look, this is a smorgasbord that's out there, and this is what you would look like if you were to take advantage of them. And finally, how we can strengthen the culture of reciprocal community engagement. What does successful collaboration? This is the question I'm going to ask you. And this is basically comes from a question my boss asked me at some point in one of our discussions. He said, in 10 years, when you look back, what are you going to be proud of? What have you done with this college that has made a positive impact? That's what's going to drive your work. What are you going to be proud of? And so that stuck with me. And that's kind of the approach I'm taking with this work, which is when we're 10 years out and look back at our work in these communities, what are we proud of? What have we learned from the communities? How have we let the communities shape us? And how have we shaped the communities in a positive way? And if that doesn't make sense, put it in chat, because sometimes it's not always clear, but that's kind of, when I think of goals, these are the goals that matter, right? And so some of the feedback we got was that we need to provide, that success would be providing culturally competent resources for students, engaging college navigators and advocates, providing community-informed marketing, developing reciprocal partnerships. And remember, reciprocity just means that we're all listening and sharing and giving and learning from each other, right? Including strong engagement in our K through 12 systems. And finally, that we're well known in the community. So what I'd like to do now, if I can, because there we go, is to talk about what you would like. And so what we're going to ask people to do is we're going to break you out. There are about 80 of us. So I'm going to say, I don't know, Daisy, Elena, what do you think? Like 6 people in the group? All right, let's go with 6 people in the group. We'll have, if we can do a breakout room, and that's going to happen magically, I hope, where you will be assigned to a breakout room and there will be 6 people in the group. Yeah, and there's a little link here at the bottom of the screen and we'll put it in chat. If you can, I'd like you to both introduce each other, have one person take notes, and then I'm going to ask you to write down what goals you think the college should really focus on, specifically in West Valley and Kearns, City and Kearns. And then secondly, if other ideas come up, I want you to be able to capture those, put those on the paper. And finally, if there are community partners that you really want to be involved in this discussion, if you could add those names too, that really helps us to make sure that this table is full with everybody who should be at it. And so I'm not quite sure what happens now, but somebody should magically.
So are you ready to do it?
We're ready to do it. Thank you.
Okay.
There you are. Okay.
No problem.
If you could make groups of 6 and you have about 7 minutes to go into your working groups.
Okay, I am gonna open them now.
Thank you. First of all, hopefully you had time to talk in your groups. Hopefully you did get the link for the form. If you did not, Erin, I can't tell if you're laughing and crying or just crying. I feel a little bit like crying for me. But but if not, I'll put the form again in the chat. But as you talked, is there anybody who'd like to share out kind of what their group talked about or the outcomes? You can feel free to unmute.
I'm happy to volunteer that we mentioned supporting our non-native speakers, not just like from an ESOL programming perspective, but we apparently just got access to a tool called like Microsoft Read and Write that is really helpful to students with pronunciation and picture dictionaries while they're working on English language material. That, I mean, like these are the things we need to keep coming, right?
Yeah. That's a great contribution.
Can I share something we talked about in our group?
Yeah.
Maybe like, you know, the outreach in the community, and we had an advisor that they reach out to adult learners, not only like, you know, high school students. So like maybe being present in like fairs and stuff like that, which is also strangely, which is also what we heard in our forum when we were present, right? And also I learned that Latinos are the largest growing population in the military. I did not know that. So, you know, having special regards towards that and learning about that. So that's interesting to know.
Jen, did you have something you wanted to share?
Well, you were in my group.
I'll let you do the talking though.
Yeah, so we talked about a couple of things. One, Daisy and I both come from the business department. So we've noticed that there's a ton of small businesses that come from many different communities in West Valley and the Kearns area. And many of the small business owners come to and take classes at Salt Lake Community College to enhance and grow their businesses. So one outreach is through just entrepreneurship for small businesses. But Rob was also in our group, and he's in the trades department, which trades are also entrepreneurs. And one of the barriers that he has experienced is a language barrier when people try to get goods and services from West Valley and Kearns. And so we were talking about maybe some of the barriers that a lot of these small business owners have, because there's not a lot of things available to them in their native language when they're trying to grow their business.
I also like that Rob framed the question, and he said, you know, that when he was trying to get people to come and work in the area, that they came with stereotypes like, oh no, I don't want to go to that site because there's lots of crimes or drugs or what have you, right? So he said, one good question that we need to always ask ourselves is, why do we have this problem? Rather than, put people in a certain negative stereotype, is like investigate, and as a community member within Salt Lake Community College, like ask ourselves, what can our college do to kind of like address these problems? Or why do people feel like they have to resort to doing these other activities when, they can have a wonderful network and community at the college?
Yeah, and to build on that, Daisy, just from personal experience, I worked at a retail business that was kind of on the border of West Valley and Taylorsville. And even though my Spanish is horrible, once people found out I was willing to try to speak Spanish to provide services, the word of mouth got out. It was faster than social media. And there were days where I would spend my entire day speaking Spanish and the whole community would show up together because it was that important to them to have somebody that did not treat people with a stereotype and that would make an effort to try to use native language to provide services. And that was a really important, big deal to the members of the community.
Thank you. Thank you for that,
Stacy?
Stacy.
Yeah, thanks. So our group focused on community partners in the West Valley area. And I work on the Jordan campus, so Health Sciences campus. And we, identified that the new U of U hospital is going to be huge for us. It is a race with all of higher education to get clinical internship sites for our students. And so maybe having a SLIC member who kind of coordinates with the university, so they know that we are really interested in having opportunity for internships, but also for future careers. The second thing we identified was high schools as a community partner, Kearns High School, Hunter High School. I have 4 boys. My youngest is 15, so I'm familiar with community college and college pathways. And there's always been this big push, for AP classes. But at my son's local high school, there has been an increase in uptake, which has been awesome in concurrent enrollment. And to work with the counselors at, Kearns and Hunter and the other high schools there to really have them market our concurrent classes. For example, in Utah, you can get, it used to be called the Regent Scholarship, but they changed it. But in order to get the Regent Scholarship, you have to, meet all these metrics. Well, they simplified it, and you do have to have 4 math classes, 9 through 12. And so when you get to senior year, not a lot of people can take calculus. We're not all math nerds, right? And so what they've done, the Regents Scholarship has changed it to you can also take, math 1030 concurrent. And that maybe is more doable, right? And then they're in the SLIC system. They're taking these concurrent classes for SLIC. And then the third partner we identified was maybe also in the high school or different youth athletic groups. And by another gal in our group, Kimberly, she is been here a week. So she's actually more of an expert than I am on this subject. She came from Twin Falls and worked with a community college there that was kind of our SLIC rival in athletics. So Kimberly, do you want to talk about that last one?
Sure. Mostly we talked about the focus on Latinx students and creating a cohort of those students and how athletics, especially soccer, is a very familiar sport in that culture, and creating a cohort of soccer players not only creates a cohort to help them through their classes and stuff, but has also shown that athletes have higher graduation rates because they have specific people helping coach them through academic advising, helping them make sure that they get to class, making sure that they are making it to graduation and keeping their grades up so that they can be eligible to play. So that was our other, partnering with other schools who have already built soccer teams and also working with the local high schools to kind of create a feeder school into a program like that, I think would be very helpful.
Those are all spectacular ideas. If I'm glad you shared, I'm glad we had a chance to share out a little bit here. If you did not get a chance to to follow the link to the form, because if it wasn't in there in time for you, please email us some of the notes from your discussion, because this is such important feedback as we shape kind of how we move forward. And cognizant that this is my last minute, we want to follow up just to remind everyone, this only works if we all do it. And so there are a number of ways to be engaged in this process. The first are open forums. As I said, we're going to do 2 more of these. One at West Valley Center and one online. And they'll evolve as these discussions evolve. And then there's always informal feedback, whether it be critical or positive. The positive feedback everybody loves, but the critical feedback actually helps us shape things too. So both of them are welcome. There's a list of members on the screen in front of you. Please reach out to anybody you feel comfortable with. Everyone has a strong voice. This is kind of a flat committee in that sense. And we would like to hear your feedback. It will shape how we act and how we behave. Finally, you can do the work with us. We would love, if you care about this, you would like to participate, we would love you to. We can do a working group if there's an issue or an idea that you think needs to be further developed. We're about to put out an open call for a co-lead if you feel that strongly. But we would like you to be engaged in any form, either informal feedback, formal feedback like this, or actually joining us in doing the work. And finally, you can always follow along. Our goal is transparency. So on the SharePoint website, if you look engaging communities, there's all of this information is up there. Our meeting times, our notes, the research that we've done, that data sciences and analytics done, the various stories that we've collected, the maps that we've done, everything is up there. So if ever you're wondering what's going on, what are they using? Why are decisions being made? Or why are they not using a resource? It's all open for everybody to look at and participate with. It's 2:47. So I'm going to the extent that I'm allowed to, can we leave it open if anybody has any questions? You can either unmute or put them in chat. Or if you are busy and have to run, we would like to thank you so much for sharing this time with us.
So I'm really happy to hear how much you're like welcoming people's feedback. Do you have some set goals that you could share with us? I know you said you're happy that the CWT is open and flexible and doesn't have, 6 particular agenda items to meet in 3 months, but is there something you're like currently working on, or are you still in the shaping process?
So we are still in the shape. I mean, we've got the set goals where we have a process and we've established a process and the values kind of that inform how we do our work. And now we have one set goal, which is established by the college and where we are, which is the goal of access and success or completion, whatever that looks like. And now we're identified those other 2 goals. And this is actually the shaping process, is feedback from both internal and external communities. Once we have those goals, that's when we set metrics and we can set different approaches, right? Or methodologies to achieve those goals. But the most important thing, I think, right now, and if we get it right, is making sure that we have goals that are shared with our community. Does that help answer the question, Daisy? Idalina, I don't know if you want to add to that. Ryan, I think you're also on here.
Yeah, we do understand that we have physical spaces in place, to be able to do the work like the West Valley Center. And so, if we were to think about a goal, it's something that, we would love it if it would involve the West Valley Center. We are hearing a lot from, these forums that the communities that we want to serve sometimes feel a little mistrusting of institutions in general. So maybe just leaving the campus setting and then going into maybe specific like fairs or, just events that happen in Park City, in Rose Park, in Glendale area that are on a yearly basis, to be able to do outreach with the community is what we're hearing. So, anything that would revolve around that. If you can identify maybe some good events that happen on a yearly basis that we can be involved in, that would also be great information for us.
And I also think that it's important, like if there's something, one thing for me that I've learned is like, I always tell Jen, I don't know if this is a dumb idea, but, and she's always open to like, no, let's hear it, so we accept any feedback. I mean, we're open to any idea because, Erin, like we're in the process of trying to figure it out, for me, I'm more actions like, hey, let's do this, let's go with it. So, and if anybody wants to email me, I'm open to emails, whoever you're more comfortable with, we're open to that. It doesn't matter. Email, reach out to anybody.
And there is, and we are cognizant, part of the reason that this was created and why we are starting with Sally's, there's some work that's already been done, right? There have been a lot of committees that have talked about this. The HSI work that's been done, we've heard about this, right? So there are some things that we can incorporate to our work as well.
Yeah, I love Rober 31's suggestion about having our own event perhaps, but also, I mean, our events even the only way to reach out. But I think my question, I think a follow-up on my question, if you don't mind, me hogging all of this time, is how, besides giving y'all ideas, how are we supposed to, and how can we be engaged, be involved when our job descriptions and the time that we need to devote to our jobs doesn't allow for that? Is there a way that, I don't know if y'all are, I doubt it. I don't know if y'all are getting compensated for this. But like how can we develop more flexibility in employee requirements, in terms of our job descriptions so that we can be more engaged? That's something I sort of mentioned in the survey, but I'm still fleshing this idea out. Like, we have community engagement leave, we have cell time, and that's great. And we have partners, and I bet that we have partners who are serving on the West Side, and that's cool. And being able to say, yeah, I'm volunteering at this organization because I'm a SLIC employee, and we want our employees to be engaged. And I'm getting, paid, like that's great, but it's only 24 hours and it can be really hard to arrange that time with your supervisors because we have a lot of duties. What is it that, is this like, if we were to want to be involved, would it just be extra on top of our, 42.5 hours per week? Would it be, is there any way to incorporate this, or at least just be clear with us at the moment so that we can understand how it would be best for us as individuals to be involved?
I don't know if I could answer that question. I don't know that question, that there's currently, as far as I know, a single answer that will answer everybody's situation, right?
Of course.
But it's worth exploring, and I'm happy to follow up with you individually and we can think about it, because right now it's not something that, I can say, oh yes, everyone's going to, gets 2 hours off to serve on the on a committee. But we can certainly explore what options we have.
Yeah, I think, Erin, you bring up a good point, right? Because this is the in-depth that we also need to talk about our community, right? There's a lot of information out there about demographics. We can easily see like the characteristics, but the ingrained part, like, wait a minute, sometimes we're stretched thin, especially from diverse backgrounds, right? Or from a background that, would help in such committee. We sometimes feel like we're stretched thin. And so this is one of those deeply rooted questions is the compensation, and I would love to do this work, but at the same time I'm part-time, and that's difficult, right? So thank you for bringing this up, because it's also something that's in the back of our minds as we're doing this work. It's like we want to partner up with the community while at the same time not forgetting or exploiting our own human resources within the college.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the question. I think Daisy summarized it well, and I think in the interim, as the college addresses this, we can work, I think, individually, one-on-one as we look at individual situations and see what kind of answers we can come up with.
Erin, I can just tell you this. For me, it's like, it's a passion. And anyone that knows how I work, like, you know, it's a passion. Like
Yeah,
today,
I know
have
your
an event.
energy.
Yeah, I'll be working till 10 o'clock tonight. And I'm not saying you can be involved if you want to be involved in the work. It doesn't mean you have to like be the co-lead. You can just say, hey, Jen, how can I participate? How can I, you know, be in part of the meetings and then give feedback? You know, the meetings are like an hour and a half, or you know what I mean? It depends. It doesn't mean you have to be out there, you know, doing like you know, what we're doing today. It's sometimes it's listening to the meetings and providing the feedback. You know, sometimes that's all that matters. Sometimes that's all that we need. Sometimes it's, you know, listening to other people, not just us bouncing ideas off of each other. You know what I mean? And sometimes if that's all you can do, then that's all that that will take, because that's enough. You know, so that's, and we accept
helping make sure that we are connecting to the people that you think in the community we need to connect with. That is key. You guys have a beautiful network and a beautiful knowledge of the communities that we are reaching out to. Making sure all voices are at the table is important. Are there any other questions before we either get kicked off or we lose everyone? Well, we can't thank you enough for spending the time with us today and for being a part of this work. It is so important for us individually and for the college. So thank you.